I want to thank all of our witnesses for their testimony and in pointing out that this is this bill really proposes that this is going to be a public-private partnership led by industry, and I think that that's very important. And that Mr. Davis had brought up that this will be assist in an entire industry. I think those are important things to understand about this bill. And Dr. Aubrecht certainly couldn't agree with you more on the need to do better with training. And I'm glad to hear in Buffalo that the supply of workers and qualified, ready workers is there. But I certainly hear from manufacturers in Chicago that that's not necessarily the case. I think we need to do more on that. But I wanted to ask Dr. Biller, as proposed in this legislation, the main purpose of the Centers for Manufacturing is to close the gap between R&D activities and deployment of technological innovation in domestic production of goods. It's been one of my biggest issues for me is to do what we can at the Federal level to help to close that gap. We have great R&D that goes on in this country, and unfortunately, so much of it does not get deployed into innovation, and some of it that does is not done here. So in your testimony, you mentioned the Federal Government support has to involve more partners and be committed to longer time horizons. You also indicate that research collaborations need to continue to later stages of R&D closer to commercialization. So I want to ask, does the legislation address the needs you have identified in your testimony? And why is it important that research supported by the centers get to the production level or later stages of R&D?
It's really all about getting over that valley of death we have been talking about for technology readiness level 4 to 7, which is really what the Fraunhofer Institutes and the Sematech model essentially addressed. So it's important for companies like General Electric that we have access to that, but I think it's even more important that we create an ecosystem of small, medium enterprises that have access to that kind of technology, because they have neither the skills nor the money to develop technology through that valley of death. And just as we have seen now in the additive manufacturing space, where the creation of an ecosystem allows us to draw upon an innovation capability from a much broader supply base, we need to think about how we're going to create that ecosystem of a much broader supply base with EMEs in traditional manufacturing, which is probably 99% of current manufacturing, and additive being maybe 1 or less. So to us, to stay globally competitive, in particular in the US, it's very, very important that we get our small, medium enterprises through that valley of death and give them access to advanced manufacturing technologies. And I think that's where the NNMIs can play a key role in accomplishing that. So that's why we are so supportive of this model. And again, in Germany and Japan, you have SMEs being so successful and being world leaders because they have a support like the Fraunhofers or the Japanese equivalent.
Hey, and sort of getting back to the public-private partnerships, why are these so, and you've talked about a few things, are there other things you could talk about why these are so attractive to industry?
If we think about, for example, the suggested DMDI Institute on Digital Manufacturing Innovation, the SMEs need to learn simulation capabilities to design product in virtual, launch their factories in a virtual environment, thereby increasing innovation, decreasing cost. They have to integrate with the large companies in a digital space. They currently don't have the engineers trained to do that. They currently don't have the software available to them to do that. We need to think of these CMIs as a commons, essentially, where we're going to train our SMEs as well as develop technology and give them access to that so that they stay globally competitive. For us, it's always, the best thing is make where you sell. That thereby you are the closest to your customer, your product engineers are together with your manufacturing engineers, and we need to think of manufacturing as a requirement for product innovation. That's why we think it's so important.
And as manufacturing leaves this country, that's the great fear that innovation will also leave the country as the people who are doing the innovation are moved over, or it's all done where the manufacturing is done outside of the country. So thank you. I yield back.